Welcome back to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch journey. I'm your host, Jess Sabanko, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on one of my favorite shows with you. Though episodes are now shorter, I will still be keeping them spoiler-free and welcome fans new and old to join me on my journey here and on social media at Rewitched_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Currently, I'm on season 5. So this week we're talking about season 5, episode 6, The Eyes Have It. Before I get into the episodes and characters, I do want to give a little disclaimer. This episode does deal with Romani people and the concept of gypsy magic, and I know that these are terms that are considered to be derogatory, and I don't want to use anything inappropriately or say something I shouldn't be saying, so I won't be using that term, but the episode does. Instead, I'll just be referring to them as shuvanis, which is their high priestess position that each of the 3 characters in the episode that we really deal with is part of. And I was looking it up very quickly and saw that that is a real term, though obviously Romani people have been judged to be evilly magical, which is where some of the use of that term did come from. So I don't want to be using it inappropriately. I don't know if it's acceptable in the context of magic or not, but even in any case, I just don't want to use it because I'm not part of that group, so it's not really my place to be saying that. But anyway, as for our characters, we do have our 3 shuvanis who are our innocents, which are Teresa, Lydia, and Ava. We have 2 demons in this episode, Cree and Oren. Oren is the father. Years ago, he was defeated by Lydia and Teresa, who had cast a spell to take away his sight. We find out that over time he eventually developed this really powerful mind's eye where even though he can't physically see, he can get visions, I think. So he's able to see things going on in other places, and specifically with this group of women who did this to him. We also see that his son is pursuing these shuvanis in order to take their eyes so that he can get his sight back for his father. And we find out that what they're specifically after is the evil eye, which Lydia and Ava's family specifically holds as part of their family talisman. In terms of the sisters, so Phoebe starts out this episode, she's really struggling with her powers. We find out that she hasn't had a premonition in months, and even her levitation power, she can barely get more than a few inches off the ground. And we also see that, again, she's being very overworked. Elise is booking her on all types of radio shows, public appearances, all types of things. So she decides to see this fortune teller, Madame Teresa, to try to figure out what's going on with her powers. Teresa's able to tell that she's a witch, but of course promises to keep her secret. But when they're trying to do this little meditation in order to help Phoebe unblock herself, because as Teresa points out, she's very overworked, she intercepts a premonition for Phoebe and sees her own death and Cree coming after her, which she then kicks Phoebe out, doesn't tell her what happened in the premonition, and then as soon as Phoebe is gone, she is attacked as she's calling Lydia to warn her that Oren is back and coming after them. The next morning, we see that Phoebe eventually does admit to her sisters that she went to see this fortune teller, and they're kind of well, why didn't you talk to us? And she's like, oh, I didn't want to bother you guys. I didn't want to worry you, whatever the case may be. Leo's also mad because he's like, I'm your white later. Why didn't you tell me? But then he goes to talk to the elders to find out what's going on with her powers. We do find out that it is an emotional blockage, and her and Leo have a conversation later in the episode where he points out to her that he thinks it has to do with Cole. Ever since she was trying to block her pain of dealing with leaving the relationship, she got really into work and she's never slowed down. So that has made her unable to really focus on her powers, put any energy into that. We also see Phoebe experiencing a lot of self-blame throughout the episode when things go wrong with Ava or Lydia, because again, her powers are so blocked by this emotional turmoil that she's been going through. In terms of Piper's storyline in this episode, so Piper is still really nauseous. She's trying to find ways to relax. She goes to this yoga class. She hated it. All the women are showing their sonograms, and Piper's really upset that she can't do the normal things like go to the doctor. And we find out that Leo has advised her not to because of what happened with Phoebe's ultrasound experience, and they're worried that a magical pregnancy just shouldn't have medicine involved. And he's like trying to convince her to do a home birth and like bought this book. And he's like trying to convince her to watch this video of like a home birth, which she thinks is like a horror movie. She's like, I need an epidural just to watch this, which like hard relate. I wouldn't want to watch that either. Like, I'm sorry, like birth, you know, terrifying, beautiful, amazing experience. But like, I would not want to watch a video of that either. Like, you could just wait till the time comes. In terms of like the way everyone's acting towards Piper in this episode, I get that, like, you know, they want to protect their secret, all of that, but like in a normal situation, like only the mother gets to make these decisions. Like everyone is sitting there being like, oh, like you should do a natural birth, you should do a home birth. Like, I'm sorry, if you are not the person giving birth, like you have no fucking say in this. I don't care. Like, that's my opinion. Like, I don't like that the husband is trying to convince her that she can't do this, right? Do I understand in this case because they're worried about like magic being exposed? Yes. But I think that a helpful solution hopefully comes up by the end of the episode. We also see later on when they're introduced to Lydia, you know, as soon as Piper finds out that Ava's a doctor, she's like, I have to meet her. Like, oh, is she an OBGYN? Like, surgeon? Close enough. Like, I'm going. I'll go talk to her. So really that desperation from Piper, as well as getting her blood drawn there, we see that immediate healing and where Leo's concern is coming from. So it does make sense. And ultimately, by the end of the episode, you know, that idea that her sisters will help her through this, as well as Ava. But we'll get there. In terms of Paige's storyline in this episode, so Paige is just like super bored and like talking about not having a life. She's like, you know, all my friends have jobs and I just seem like this big loser who's not doing anything. And, you know, she's even excited to like watch the home birth video with Leo and Piper because that's how bored she is at this point. Though, of course, they're like, you know, you are doing something important. You're saving the world. And this is something I think we saw a little bit with Phoebe in earlier seasons as well when she was the full-time witch in the family. But we do see her having done a lot of reading. Like when they meet the shuvanis, she already knows some of their history. She's been reading up on it and is really interested to learn more of the techniques. We see her with Lydia at one point working on a potion, like she's really interested in learning new forms of magic, which I think, again, is why she decided to become a full-time witch. In terms of getting them all connected together, we see that they decide in the morning, like after Phoebe has revealed that she went to see this fortune teller, she isn't sure what happened, so Paige says that she'll go check in. They find out that Teresa was murdered, and that's when they decide to go to the funeral, where they meet Lydia, who is then getting attacked because Phoebe has a minor premonition, just bits and pieces of it, when they bump shoulders, when they were about to go talk to her anyway, of her getting attacked. We find out that she does have the evil eye power. She uses it against Cree in their first fight. He wasn't prepared. And then Piper tries to blow him up, but he's very powerful. He just kind of flies back, and they, of course, get out of there, which is when they go back to the manor. They're having this talk. She's worried about her niece, and it is Oren's idea that Cree then go after Ava because he can, again, with his mind's eye, see that she's worried about her niece. So we find out later on that Ava's mother had been relying on their traditional medicine practices and passed away from cancer, and Ava believes that if she had seen like a real doctor, she would have lived longer. So she kind of like holds this against and therefore is like shunning her heritage, does not want to be a shuvani, none of that stuff. And she just wants to be a normal doctor. So she's very against that. But when Lydia comes to talk to her, she does say that she will go to the funeral with her, but she doesn't believe in magic. She doesn't believe in curses. She's not worried about the demon coming after her. So again, they're talking to Lydia, and that's when Piper said that she would go see Ava, and they try to talk to her and they're like, you know, you can't reject who you are. That's when she mentions her mom, and Piper is very understanding. She's like, I know what it's like to lose your mom. Believe me, I do. But like, you can't shut out who you are. And Ava, again, is just focused on her work. We do see later in the episode that her, Paige, and Piper all do have this really nice moment where after Lydia is killed, because unfortunately in the hospital parking lot when Lydia is going to warn Ava, Cree does catch up with her and kill her. But of course the sisters arrive with the vanquishing spell and vanquish him, though they realize it's not all over later on because Ava, when Lydia dies, does see her in the morgue, what's called mulo, which is the dead appearing in her patient's dead body to give her a warning. And that's when she finally does accept it. So she and the sisters do go to Lydia's apartment together, her, Paige, and Piper specifically, while Phoebe goes back to the manor to work on the vanquishing potion because she doesn't believe in her powers and doesn't think that her going to the apartment will be useful. While they're at the apartment, they find this little treasure box from Ava's mother, and there's this really beautiful bonding moment that I was starting to reference earlier between her, Paige, and Piper, where they talk about the loss of their own moms, and that's when they find the evil eye, which has written on the back of it the word that Lydia had been telling Ava when she appeared to her. So they realize that the evil eye is their family's magic and that Lydia had possessed the power, and that's why her eyes specifically were stolen. So they're going to go to the morgue to check her body. But of course, Oren has already gotten there, stolen the eyes, kills the doctor using the evil eye, and then is going to go after them. So they go back to the manor to see how Phoebe's doing with the potion. Phoebe finally does get a premonition and finds out that he's coming for them, the potion's not going to work, and they're all going to be killed, and she even feels her own death, and Leo has to heal her, and she says that her powers are expanding, which she hadn't been expecting, and now she can be affected in the present by future events, which is actually a really scary idea for premonition, and I don't really want that to continue, but we'll see if it does come up again in later episodes. So once they go to the attic, they decide that if they work together with Ava, using the two forms of magic together would be enough to stop him. So they have her do the spell that they used to vanquish the source, summoning their ancestors to summon her ancestors. It works. They vanquish Oren. And it's this really beautiful moment where she's accepted her magical destiny. There was a moment earlier in the episode where they were sometimes it takes people a little longer, referencing Paige coming to the craft later, but still being able to use it. Then we have our final scene of the episode where they're going to visit Ava at this clinic she started to help the other Romani people who don't have health insurance. She's doing this free clinic after work and providing them with healthcare, which she thinks is really important. And we see that Paige is there helping her out because, she needs a life and something to do. And we find out that they made an appointment with Piper and that they're going to train to be midwives and help her through her home birth, which Piper is still a little unsure about, but maybe they'll convince her. We'll see what happens there. Again, I do think it should be Piper's choice, but maybe it is for the best. Maybe it is safest that she have this magical baby in a magical place. We also found out earlier in the episode that Cole's been out of town. He's soul searching or searching for his soul, as Phoebe says. So he wasn't part of this episode. But again, that emotional damage he did to Phoebe obviously is affecting her character and her powers still. Overall, I thought this was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. I think that season 5 is just really, really amazing so far, and I just keep looking forward to each episode as I'm watching. In terms of my overall thoughts and kind of where things are going from here, I'm really excited to see if Phoebe's powers are going to continue to grow now that she's kind of gotten back into the swing of things. Again, I don't know if I love this new aspect of her premonition power, but it could be interesting to see how that continues to develop. In terms of Paige, I wonder if she's going to keep working with Ava or if she's going to find something else that she's passionate about to kind of balance some of her witchy time so that she doesn't spend every minute of every day focusing on that, which of course is never healthy. Maybe Phoebe's going to stop being as overworked, though I doubt Elise is going to let up on her anytime soon. She was really mad that she canceled an appearance in order to take care of her family emergency. So we'll see if she's any trouble at work the next episode. As for Piper, obviously we're seeing that her pregnancy is continuing to progress. I wonder if she is eventually going to decide that this home birth, this magical birth with Ava and her sisters is what she should be doing. It seems like she probably is going to be going in that direction, but we'll see what happens there. And yeah, I'm hoping that she starts to feel better. It sucks that she's having such a hard time and wasn't able to see a doctor. So, we'll see what goes on in terms of that. And in terms of Cole, I wonder what will happen once he returns. I don't know if he'll be in the next episode or not, but we'll see how things progress for him and Phoebe and whether or not they're still on a path to forgiveness or if that's just completely done. But yeah, I hope you'll join me back next time.